In today's video, a rare breed of African lion. Her name is Nunu. Hey all you cool cats and kittens. Today we're going to be talking about Carole Baskins. Oh, here, kitty, kitty. So, the Tiger Queen, the secret world of Carole Baskins. So, Hillsbury County Sheriff Chad Chronister says that the disappearance of Jack Donald Lewis is still an open investigation, and he hopes that the popularity of Tiger King can bring forth some new leads. He's out here tweeting the hotline number, and I'm over here like, it's Carole. It's Carole.
Stupid.
Now, everybody is talking about Carole Baskins killing her husband. Everybody that's in my comment section, which is like over 800 comments, thinks that she killed her husband. Everybody I see online, Twitter's going crazy with memes, crazy, funny memes everywhere. But due to my last video, I had people tell me about their personal dealings with Carole Baskins, and I'm going to relay them to you. So, Carole Baskins herself, let's talk about her character. We don't know her personally, but we can judge a person off of the way they respond to things, or their business dealings, or the way they treat people, or we could also look at their insight off of books that they wrote. Yes, so let's start here. First of all, I took one for the team and I bought Carole's book. The book is called The Millionaire's Manual to Manifesting Millions. We know how you manifested your millions, Carole, and it wasn't through the law of attraction. But anyway, in this book, she claims to have psychic ability. Well, Carole, where were your psychic abilities when Netflix came calling for this documentary and you thought that they wouldn't portray you faithfully and they were going to victimize you? Absent. This book gives us a lot of insight into how she thinks and who she is. So let's go. So she quotes Wallace Wattles a lot. It's a lot of law of attraction shit in this book, which I don't think the law of attraction itself is bullshit. But yeah, in her book, Carole says, it is through material things that you develop your mind and live a good life and are able to help others. So your first priority in life should be to be rich. Your first priority in life should be to be rich. Not be kind, not be a good person, not be healthy, not have healthy relationships, but to be rich. Now, being wealthy or achieving wealth, being rich, whatever, I can understand why that could be a goal, but it's not a number one priority. To me personally, I have so many other things that come before money in my life, because you could be the richest fucking person on the world and you could be literally broken in every aspect of life. Like, money really cannot buy you happiness. So I think happiness should be your first priority and not fucking money. But whatever. Maybe I just never had enough of it to know. But listen, this whole fucking book is Carole bragging about how rich she is and how poor everybody that around her is. Like, I'm rich, you bitches are poor. I mean, she's like in a nice way, like, you know, I'm super rich and you're super fucking poor. And that's why you're reading this book. But the whole book is her flexing, but it's a weird flex because it's a lot of lies, okay? So she says, I live in a magical place that most refer to as the island. It is a 5-acre peninsula that is surrounded by a winding river, and although it is in the middle of a city of 1 million people, it remains natural and abundant with wildlife and plants. She goes on to say that outside of her island are the poor people that are barely making ends meet, and she says, I quote, I paid less for my paradise than most people paid to live on top of each other. Stop it! We know you didn't pay for your paradise at all. Don did. Don was the millionaire. Don was the millionaire and Don was the owner and Don had the money, girl. And that's why she forged his will and power of attorney and everything to steal everything from him once he disappeared. I just don't know, like, why are you lying in your own book bragging about how you're a millionaire before this time when everything that you have you inherited from your dead husband? So the will and the power of attorney and all this, I'm not sure which exact one it is, but in 2006, the witness that supposedly saw Don sign it basically said she never saw him sign it, and she was forced by Carole to go to court, and Carole had her backed in the corner, and all of the people that deal with Carole are terrified of her. I'm not. Pull up. Anyway, she tells the story of how her roadside zoo became a rescue, and after Don died, their money was tied up in court. And then Howard Baskins, her new husband, came in and saved the day. And saved Big Cat Rescue, started Big Cat Rescue. So in the book, Carole talks about her relationship with some guy named Jim when she was younger. He was like this abusive guy, and she was 15 and they got in a bad car accident, and the doctors told her that she would never walk again. But then Jim and his friends like broke her out of the hospital where she was listed as a Jane Doe, and then he took her to Jim's parents' house where she threw herself on the floor and dragged herself around on her elbows, and then she law of attracted the ability to walk again. It just sounds like a bullshit movie. Like, I just don't believe it, and you can't corroborate it because she was listed in the hospital as a Jane Doe. Maybe she got evidence for all this stuff. I don't know. As we go through this video, a lot of her stories they just seem unbelievable and at the least exaggerated. Two things about this book that really stuck out to me was the fact that Carole said that money is her #1 priority and should be everyone's #1 priority. This suggests to me that a person with these type of beliefs and values would do anything for money. But another thing that oddly sticks out to me is that this book, she talks about being self-made millionaire and how she bought wildlife on Easy Street and everything she touches turns to gold, and she worked in real estate and ate out of dumpsters. But this isn't her story. That's Don Lewis's story. Everything Carole says that happened to her is what Don Lewis's family says about him. It's like she took his story and made it her own. What we know of how they met doesn't suggest that Carole had any money. It's quite the opposite. She was walking down Nebraska Avenue in the middle of the night crying, and she held him at gunpoint for their first conversation, and then they slept together that night, or she spent the night with him, whatever. Now, if you are from Tampa, then you know many people have reached out to me and told me that Nebraska Avenue is crime-ridden and most known for prostitution. It's actually a hoe stroll. Now, I'm not saying she was a prostitute, and I couldn't know that. I have no way of knowing that. And honestly, I don't care. I don't care what any woman does with her pussy. Like, I have my own pussy to worry about. That's her pussy. She can worry about it. I'm just telling you what the girls are saying. So I searched high and low, and there is no evidence that Carole was anything but broke before she got with Don Lewis. When she met millionaire Don Lewis was married with children. I think this is another thing that speaks to her character. Don Lewis was married. He was a married man with a family, and Carole came through like Miley Cyrus on a wrecking ball and wrecked that home. Homewrecker Carole. Carole was 19. Don was 20 years older than her. Don takes some responsibility for wrecking his own home, of course, but at the same time, I just find it funny and totally hypocritical that in her book, Carole is all preachy, quoting the Bible, and in her blog post about the oscillate nirvana, she says she hears voices of angels and God himself, and she's so Christian, but she slept with a married man. Girl. Anyway, fast forward to the present day. Carole still seems to be all about the monies. The monies, give me monies, give me monies, give me monies. Donate, 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 donate. Big cat, donate, cat, donate. Remember when I told y'all that Big Cat Rescue has a website and they sell these Paul paintings on there? Well, BCR Watch, I will have it linked below. Let me just stop, because this shit really made me mad. Big Cat Rescue says that they put paint supplies in the animals' cages, and if the animals want to, they can paint totally undisturbed as something of enrichment. If they don't want to paint, the paint supplies just sit there. But if they do want to roll around in the shit and paint and paw print it up, they can. So BCR Watch describes this one incident that happened in 2016. A tiger had a broken leg, and while it was under sedation, these ratchet bitches took its good paw and painted pictures with it. The tiger's leg is broken. It's under sedation. Treat it with dignity. How would you like it if you were sedated, getting a colonoscopy, and I said, oh, you know what? It's a good time to make a print of your booty hole and sell it online. Like, what the fuck? That's totally unethical. No one would do that. Why would you do that to a tiger? Why would you do it to him? Why would? For money. For money. That's exploitation. That tiger's paw is fucked up. His leg is broken, and all you can think about is how to line your pocket. So Carole said that she doesn't make any money from Big Cat Rescue, but she just draws a salary just like the other paid employees. Like, the money that's coming into Big Cat Rescue isn't going like into her bank account. It's for the rescue. Whatever. Do with it what you will. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you what I do know. So we're going to talk about Carole's real estate business for a second. Somebody needs to call the Better Business Bureau up in here. Somebody needs to call the Consumer Watch Agency. Somebody needs to call somebody, because now I've already pointed out that Carole is overly obsessed with money. Some rich folks believe that you could do any dirty, schemy, grimy thing to get money. But as long as you participate in some kind of philanthropy, some kind of activism, some kind of charity, that we will forget all about the shady shit. Well, I'm here to remind you. Hi. So I was contacted by a lady named Deborah. Deborah reached out to me, and she told me her story and her dealings with Carole Baskins. She left it in a comment, left her email. I sent her an email. So I'm going to relay what she said about her dealings with Carole. So Deborah was a victim of hurricane damage in Florida. She ended up having to close her business. She had to file bankruptcy. She had to sell her house to get another one. So this happened in St. Pete Beach. So she had just filed bankruptcy, and she was allowed to sell her home and use the proceeds to get another home. That was the stipulation. If she didn't buy another home, she would forfeit the money that she had to sell, that she got from her home. So Deborah had $65,000 in profit, and she met Marty Williams, who was showing manufactured homes at the Florida State Fair. So Marty assured Deborah that she could get her financed at 10% with a private lender, a private investor. So they found a house for $159K, and the private lender was Carole Baskins. So Deborah put up $50K as the down payment and went to closing. So then when they got to closing, it was a whole bait and switch type of thing going on. When they got to closing, that 10% interest doubled to 18% interest. They never agreed to 18%. It was supposed to be 10%, which is still high as fuck, considering like the average mortgage percentage is probably about 3 or 4%. Now, they didn't want to go through with the 18%, but if they backed out, they would lose all of their $50,000 payment in escrow due to their buyer's contract. That must have been a stipulation in their buyer's contract. So Deborah and her husband had lost their business due to the hurricane in Florida and storm damage. Carole made them a counter offer after their protest that she would let their down payment be 14 to 18% and the rest would go onto the principal balance. Again, they protested, but Carole said if they made all of their payments on time for a year, she would refinance them at 10%. The next year, after all the payments were made on time, she refused to refinance them. She also would not escrow taxes and insurance. They were struggling paying $1,800 a month payments on the house, so they didn't have tax money. And you know what happened next? Carole filed a request to buy their house through a tax lien sale, which means if you do that, that means she pays the tax lien, which was like a couple $1,000s, and she takes back the property. The property that she privately financed. Deborah called and pleaded with Carole to not do this. Carole paid the taxes and added to their principal. They purchased the home, putting down $50K. After down payment, they owed $109K. And in 2.5 years of making their payments, they owed $146,000. $15,000. Do you see that predatory type of shit? Do you see it? They tried to sell the house. It appraised for $226,000, but this was all around the time of the housing bubble bust, which busted because of real estate practices like Carole's. But anyway, the story isn't over. Carole offered Deborah $15,000 for the property. Deborah declined because why would she sell her house to Carole for $15K when it's worth $200K? And she had already given Carole 2.5 years of payments at $1,800 a month, which is over $50K. And she also gave her a $50,000 down payment, which is combined over $100,000. But Deborah was going through a lot of health issues. She's an insulin-dependent diabetic, hypertension. She had a stroke. She was desperate, so she decided to accept the $15,000 because she couldn't afford to keep the house anyway. So Deborah called Carole, and Carole laughed at her. She laughed and said that the $15,000 offer was no longer on the table because she declined it, and now she would be willing to give her $3,000 for a $226,000 house, and she can take it or leave it. What Carole did, and what you'll see, is that her whole business model is around predatory loans. That's what it looks like: predatory loans and tax sales and just foreclosing on properties. What Deborah says she went through with Carole Baskins is a predatory loan. And let me tell you how that works. So basically what that is the person doing the loan designs it in such a way that they know that you can't meet the demands of the loan. Like, they know it's not going to work out. It's designed for you to fail. So Carole ends up with a property that she paid shit all for. And you're going to tell me that this is a good person? Well, if you are, it doesn't end here. In Pasco County, Florida, and Hillsborough County, Florida, you will see that Carole has acquired hundreds of homes through quitclaim deeds and tax sales. In Deborah's situation, Carole's mother is the notary that signed the quitclaim deed. In Florida, this is illegal. It's illegal. It is illegal for your mother, your father, your sibling, or your child to be your notary in business dealings. So Carole is a fucking scumbag, and I do not put it past her to use activism as a shield while she's lining her pockets. I'm sorry, I just don't. And I do not put it past a person like this to be involved in their husband's murder and disappearance. Carole says in her lengthy rebuttal, in the years preceding Don's disappearance, Don's behavior was showing signs of mental deterioration. He was hoarding junk and dumpster diving, and one time he got stuck in a dumpster and called her crying because he didn't know where he was. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that would mean that Don Lewis called Carole from a cell phone inside a dumpster in 1997 or before. Cell phones in the 90s surely were not unheard of. An average of 60 million people had cell phones in the 90s. It wasn't as common as it is now, where like 300 million people have cell phones. But if he had a cell phone, where's the cell phone records? Where are they at? The police didn't have them. They didn't get them back then, obviously, or they would have them. But they said they couldn't get them because they don't exist anymore. So that means that they looked for them years after the fact. Maybe they should look into new technology, try again to get those phone records. I don't know. Give it a shot. So Carole says that she has fully cooperated with the investigators and everyone involved in her husband's case. But according to a Hillsborough County Sheriff, that's a lie. Hillsborough County Sheriff said during an online press conference that Carole was given the opportunity to take a polygraph. And he said, quote, "Everyone else has agreed, and she declined. She said her attorney told her it would not vindicate her of anything, so she declined to be interviewed." So that's a lie. That's a lie. She did not fully cooperate. Why is she saying she did? She didn't, and no one has been ruled out. So by most accounts, Don Lewis was old. He was worth more than $6 million. He wasn't like a pleasant guy or whatever, but he sometimes looked for food in trash bins. He could outsmart investors, but he never earned a college degree. He spent thousands of dollars starting the Wildlife on Easy Street, a sanctuary for exotic lions, tigers, and leopards at the end of a dirt road near like where a mall was going to be. He had dealings and connections in Costa Rica, but who had motive to kill Don? Who had motive to kill Don Lewis? That's usually where like investigations start. Who benefited from his death? Carole Baskins benefited from Don Lewis's death. How did she benefit? She benefited because she was his power of attorney and she was his wife, and she inherited all of his shit from his will. His will was forged. His will or power of attorney, it was all forged. And on Twitter, so Robert Moore from the podcast Joe Exotic Tiger King caught something and posted it to Twitter. Look no further than the signatures. So in the restraining order Don filed about 2 months before he disappeared, the one that he filed against Carole that said Carole wanted to kill him. Look at the signature. You see the signature? Now look at this signature on the will that leaves everything to Carole. These are not the same signatures. Look at the dots for the I's. Look at the D's. Look at the last name, the O's in the last name. I'm not a handwriting expert, but damn, that shit don't look the same to me. Does it look the same to you? I think the investigator should have one look over these documents, because if it's forged, which we already know one of the witnesses, Susan Arnoff, said she never saw Don sign it. So there's another witness that they should also talk to, Jay Bakal. So after Don and before Howard Baskins, Jay Bakal was Carole's lover. And in 2002, Jay Bakal applied for a protection order against Carole Baskins. He felt that he was in danger of death or serious bodily injury. He asked her, what if your missing husband shows up? And to that she said, dead bodies don't talk. This is in police records. The police need to talk to Jay Bakal. Why do all these men feel they need protection from Carole? Is it a coincidence? I think not. Now, I mentioned Susan Arnoff. So Susan Arnoff sent some emails to a third party where she says she didn't witness the will being signed. Carole had her backed in the corner, and this is what she said. She said basically that Carole was a prostitute and a lady named Psycho Sherry stole her diaries, and there are tons of salacious claims in the emails. You can read the email on the BCR Watch website. I will link it in the description box. So Don had a reputation for being stingy. He reportedly proposed to Carole with a $14 cubic zirconia ring, bought clothes from yard sales, and refused to pay for Carole's daughter's bills. So Don and Carole were at odds. Don goes missing. You know what the biggest red flag for me was? When they pronounced her husband dead 5 years and 1 day after his disappearance, she filed for them to claim him dead. She received a death certificate in the mail. She didn't have a funeral service for him, nor a memorial or nothing. Is there like even a plaque of him anywhere in BCR's park, like in loving memory of the founder or co-founder Don Lewis? I mean, it was his money that built that shit, and he was your husband. When the Netflix people are interviewing Carole, they asked her about a memorial or funeral, and this is what Carole said.
Remembered anything. It was pitch black outside. It was just like I had just completely zoned out. I don't know where I went.
You blacked out? Really? Do you know how many times someone has said they blacked out as a defense as to why they did something fucked up? Do you know how many killers use, man, I just blacked out? Get the fuck out of my face. So Carole has a rebuttal. It's 25 pages long. She says how everyone is not credible, and anyone that had anything bad to say about her has threatened her life at some point or threatened to physically abuse her. On Carole's other website, 911 Animal Abuse, which she uses to like just bash all of her enemies, she has portfolios on all of her enemies. And the guy that said he sold Carole her first tiger cub, Scrappy, in the Netflix documentary, Carole says that on January 27th, 2006 at 2:10 p.m., he called her up on her cell phone and threatened to have some of his friends in Florida track her down and kill her. But she isn't worried about that happening. She just wants to give insight into the type of people that own big cats. If not that, then it's someone she foreclosed on or someone she wanted no dealings with. It's always the other person picking on her. She has I'm a fucking victim syndrome. It's bad. Carole's version of events makes it seem like Anne McQueen is who we need to be looking at, and she's greedy and she stole from them. But Anne McQueen fully cooperated and you didn't. But we know that Carole is greedy. We know that money is the most important thing in the world to her. We know that she will stoop to the lowest levels to acquire money, even if that means that her real estate business is going to take advantage of hurricane victims, or that she would take advantage of sedated tigers and make fucking paw print pictures that she can sell on her website. So killing her husband that's about to divorce her and take her dream of being a big cat, exotic cat collector, sanctuary rescuer, whatever she claims to be. He's about to take that dream away. He gets a divorce from her. She loses everything. His own friend and her own friend says that. And Lewis divorcing her, it kills her millionaire aspirations. Her husband that she views as a liability and a pervert. Her husband that she says has sex with her every day and then goes to Costa Rica once a month while she's on her menstrual to have sex with another woman. I don't think she would have any fucking problems killing him or being involved in killing him. I don't. Why would I believe that she doesn't have a motive nor the capability to get rid of him and inherit his millions? But how did she do it? There are a few theories. Joe Exotic said that Carole fed her husband to tigers and to dig up the septic tank, and Carole made that sardine oil comment that caused everybody to lose their shit. I don't think that she fed Don Lewis to tigers. Sorry, Joe, I don't think so. This is a smart woman. Carole Lewis is a savage businesswoman and a smart-ass woman. Everybody that worked with Don and his family, all of those people, they all refute claims that Don had dementia nor Alzheimer's, although Carole says that he does all the time. And she says it in every rebuttal or anything, but she even wrote in her diary before Don went missing, allegedly, that he was crazy and had dementia, but no one else says that he did. So she's either a premeditated murderer or the luckiest woman alive. She wanted her pervert husband out of her life, but she wanted to keep his money, and she got to do it. Also, really odd, the day that Don went missing, the investigation homicide detective said Carole went at 3 a.m. to get milk for the cats from Albertsons. So whatever, her car broke down and her brother, a cop, and another deputy came to her rescue and saved her, and the other deputy took her home. So let's visually look at this thing on our Nancy Drew shit. Boom. So he's reported missing Tuesday the 19th by his wife Carole. Monday is when he was last seen, I'm guessing per Carole. So Carole leaves to go to Albertsons. Her car breaks down. A deputy drives her home. She says that she then seen Don a couple hours after this. And I'm presuming that this was the last time that Don was seen. Now, his wife is being brought home by a police. And he doesn't come outside to see why his wife is being brought home by a police. Maybe 3 a.m. he's not awake. Maybe 3 a.m. doesn't mean early, because we know Don said he was leaving early. Who knows what time his flight tickets were for? And he had to drive to Miami as well. But the flight tickets were never used. I'm going to tell you what I think. I think at the moment that Carole did her store run at 3 a.m., her husband was being killed. And she planned to use the police and her car breaking down as a way to separate herself from the crime and the crime scene should anything ever happen. We also know a witness that came forward with new information to BCR Watch, the ex-wife of Kenneth Farr. She says that Kenneth Farr came home Sunday night with all Don's guns and also Don's van. And Carole also transferred properties into Kenneth Farr's name. Public record, look it up. If you take all of this into account, something happened Sunday night, early Monday morning. If shit goes bad, Carole's alibi is ironclad because she was with who else other than a police. And it wasn't her brother that drove her home. It was the deputy. It was another deputy. I would be interested to know if Carole called her brother or if her brother just happened to run into her. Because if your car breaks down, why would you call your brother that you claim you're not close to? Why wouldn't you call your husband? Unless you know you can't call your husband because your husband's already dead. All we know is Don Lewis never made it on his flight. He never got the titles for the cars from Anne. He went missing on Sunday. I do not think Carole killed him. I do not think Carole physically killed him. I think she conspired with whoever killed him. And I think you don't need to look any further than the people that still benefit off of Carole today. Her family. But Kenneth Farr should be put to the question based off of his ex-wife's statements. Carole's father should also be put to the question. Anyone that has any loyalty to Carole and benefits from Carole inheriting Don's money or did benefit, they should be questioned hard. We know that Carole's father and Kenneth Farr acted as her henchmen when they busted up in Anne's office doing all of that criminal shit, cutting locks, cutting power, cutting water, all of it. Follow the money. Follow the money. Follow the property transactions. Carole's world, as she tells it through colorful stories, has been one walking unbelievable calamity after another since she was since she was a kid. She's been a victim of everything imaginable. And somehow she always seems to come out of the situations unscathed and better and richer, with a story to tell and a book to sell, money to make. But the Netflix series, which she clearly did not like how it portrayed her, and she didn't like the people that made the documentary, she called them con men, they reported on her fairly. Could you imagine how, the backlash the creators of the documentary would have got if they showed all of Joe Exotic's dirt and all the other people's dirt, but didn't show Carole's? I think it was amazing, and I think she just doesn't like it because they didn't fall for her bullshit. They didn't glorify anyone. They didn't do anyone any favors. I know that was a lot. Whew, that was a lot. But what do you think? If you have any tips, call this number. This is an active tip line. It's receiving active multiple tips a day. Let them know what you know, and maybe this case can be solved and justice can be served. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks to everyone that supports me on Patreon. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please click that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and join the Sweet Summer family. Okay, my sweet summer children, have a good day.